Minasan konnichiwa. My name is Matt Okahara. I'm a gunner and interpreter with the Matsumoto Castle Gun Corps, and today we're going to be talking about the gunnery units from Total War Shogun 2. I will qualify that slightly by saying that I'm not a good gamer. I'm not a very good gamer, although I do own Total War Shogun 2, and the footage that I'm going to use is actually going to be sent to me by someone who knows what they're doing, and that's what I'm going to be looking at today. The basic version of the game has two kinds of gunnery units in it. It has the Matchlock Ashigaru and the Matchlock Samurai, and that's what makes up the Matsumoto Castle Gun Corps as well. We're divided essentially into two. We've got the Banzutsutai, which is the Matchlock Ashigaru, and then we've got our Matchlock Samurai gunners as well, who are more proficient in several different kinds of matchlock as opposed to just the basic kinds. So let's compare these digital gunners to the real thing. How do these matchlock gunners in the game compare to the Matsumoto Castle Gun Corps in real life?
So that shaded in area is on the island of Kyushu, and some of the bigger towns in that area would be Oita, Beppu and Kitakyushu.
Strangers have come to our shores. They bring weapons of smoke and fire. Weapons that kill without honor, without skill.
We know from historical documents that these kinds of guns with an external firing mechanism arrived in Japan in 1543, but weapons of smoke and fire did exist in Japan before the arrival of these matchlock firearms. And the game is also buying into that stereotype that the samurai thought guns were dishonourable in some way. In all likelihood, there probably were warriors at the time who thought that way, but in general, the weapons were well received into the country, and that's why so many were produced, and that's why so many samurai were armed with them, and that's why those samurai, who remember were the landlords and the governments of the time, that's why they issued their Ashigaru with these kinds of weapons. And on that note, we'll start off with looking at the infantry at the time, the Ashigaru, and see what these units are like in the game. That's an important part to actually remember, is that this is a game and it's not a simulation. It's designed to make the whole experience enjoyable for the player so they can come back and play some more and buy other episodes in the series of Total War. And in part of making it user-friendly for the commander, you can see that there's a nice little red cone which shows where the area of fire is going to be for the matchlock troops. In real life, that would be around about 80 metres, perhaps 60 metres, depending on the kind of weapon that there is. Remember that the matchlocks were not just standard issue all over the country. Depending on where they were produced in Japan, they had different kinds of wood, different kinds of metalsmiths, different kinds of workers. So the guns did have a slight variation. What they had in common though was usability and the ability to punch through armour.
My lord, a glorious victory will soon be yours.
It's great just to be able to fly over the battlefield and see what all the different units are doing. During the feudal era, it must have been an absolute nightmare to have command and control of your units. You would have had a lot of messengers and a lot of messages going backwards and forwards. And a lot of command would need to be delegated to the individual teppotai, which is the name of a gunnery unit. So in that respect, a lot of trust would have to be put into the commanders of those units. Okay, next up, the Matchlock Samurai. In the game, these guys are better armed, they've got better armour, and they can actually defend themselves a bit better in close combat, which of course would be the way. The samurai at the time would have been trained in the way of the sword before they even picked up a gun. It's good to see them firing by ranks and firing in volleys as well, showing a lot of firing discipline. That's not too different to how it would be on an actual battlefield, because you don't want to expend all your ammunition too quickly. You don't want to shoot them when they're too far away because you'll miss. You don't want to shoot them when they're too close because they'll overrun you. Okay, so here they come. Their ranks have been thinned out a little bit with a few volleys, and let's see if we can finish them off before they actually make contact with the front rank. Yeah, that's some good stuff, some good gunnery. I'm not sure that's how it would be in real life though, taking that many casualties on the advance. I'm sure the advance would either falter and they'd go back to their own lines to come up with a better plan or withdraw entirely. But one great thing about this game is it really does expose the casual gamer to some quite complex issues in feudal Japan at the time. The nature of politics, the nature of war, the nature of resources, all these things that actually go into a military campaign, not just the fighting by itself. And it introduces people to the idea that the samurai actually did use guns, and they used a lot of them, they used them regularly, and have been doing so since 1543. But how did it look in real life? At the Matsumoto Castle Gun Corps, we try to replicate the tactics as best we can, and we think it looks something like this. Here we've got a line of Ashigaru, they're firing sequentially, and they'd be under control of one gun captain, one samurai. And these are some of our samurai gunners. They're using chuzutsu, which are medium-sized barrels, quite powerful weapons with a little bit more charge than the banzutsu that the Ashigaru would use, and they'd be operating independently or in small groups themselves as well. And these samurai are using ozutsu, which is a small portable cannon. They're ideal for material destruction such as gates or taking out troops in tight formations and cavalry as well. If you're a Total War fan, then just leave a comment in the section below and let me know what kind of gunnery units you like to use. And I know there's also some other units I didn't look at. I haven't got the DLC for the game, so tell me a bit about those as well, because I'd be interested to find out.